Welcome back, everybody, to episode 10 of Cake Bites. I don't really feel like it's a real milestone, but 10 episodes feels like a milestone for me. So I'm extra excited about this week's episode. Mostly because I'm hoping I'm introducing a lot of you guys to something new that you'll be able to enjoy as maybe a traditional sports fan or maybe just somebody that's a fan of strategy. I personally enjoy watching football, so it was a no-brainer that I really enjoyed my first experience watching a set of games for the SFL on Twitch. I am really excited to talk to you guys about the Simulation Football League, and with me to talk about it, because he knows everything about it, is the one and only commissioner for the league. So Cameron is going to talk about the wrapping up of season 10 and everything that's going to happen between seasons 10 and 11 and what you could do to get involved in upcoming season 11. So on to the show, I guess. Here is Cameron Irvine.
I guess probably the thing that's known least about sort of the whole journey is just um, the belief in just building up something from nothing, and just just how much work that takes, but B, just how rewarding that can be, right?
Yeah, definitely. Sure.
And I'm anytime I get a chance to just kind of speak on the subject, I just kind of take it, whether it's like for a class or whatever, because it's just
perfect.
So
I guess the natural question then is, I guess, first, why are we talking today? You are Cameron Irvine, right?
Yes.
And you are the commissioner of the Simulation Football League.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's, the concept should be very easy to understand, but for some reason, it is a little hard to grasp what you guys do because it's so different than any other type of esport that is out right now, right?
Yeah, people, the first thing that an outsider might say is, you're not an esport because people aren't playing against each other. And that's what esports is all about, the competition. And you have to take a step back and say, well, that's not necessarily true. Our artificial intelligence might be playing against itself in its moment. And by our, I mean just our league in general. We don't, all pro football 2K8 made by 2K Sports were the geniuses right behind the artificial intelligence, just like Blizzard or EA or anybody else might be behind the intelligence of their games that people are able to, enjoy and compete with. But essentially what we are is the first competitive controllerless esport that I'm aware of, right? I can only make the claims to what I know. But essentially what we've done with esports is we looked at what esports was, this competitive space between either individuals or teams, and a display of that competition in front of fans that truly enjoyed watching someone that's really good at the game that they love to play on the side. They just to really enjoy watching them play, because it's almost like an art form, just like a LeBron James or a Tom Brady, right? And we all gather around to watch those sporting events or to watch some brilliant trumpet player, which I was, that I saw tonight at a concert in North Texas. But it all makes sense, right? In the way that we gather to view talent. And what I saw out of esports is, yes, you gather around to view talent, but that's not the final step of what it truly means to participate in a virtual space. What that truly means is to not only gather to watch competitors, gather to watch skilled professionals, but it's also to gather to watch yourself and to gather to watch your friends participate in a way that is hands off and suspenseful, right? Just like in real life when you don't know what's going to happen next, and its reasoning behind the product and the way that it is to take that next step of this is a computer playing a computer, but we have the best coaches, the best managers, general managers and team owners and people that have been put into these roles through hard work and efforts and grit. You can't just become that, right, and be good at it. It takes a lot of time, effort, and energy, just like it would a competitor with a controller in their hand. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's the general idea, right? We take all these people and all their skills and talents and their football minds, the strategy behind the sport, that me and so many other people love, and we use that as our fuel, as our competition, to where when you put in a play that week as a coach and you see that play executed against a defense that you were hoping it would be executed against, and it is executed effectively, and 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 the vision came together. That's what a real head coach feels. That's what on the
Yeah,
sideline,
definitely.
and I've always thought that video games, you're too much in control. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
when they say it's reality TV, but it's not, right? And to say that this is, the reality TV is getting to push buttons to dictate whether or not your player makes a catch, that's not reality, because every time you press A, that player is going to do what you told him to do. That's not real life. And so we try to
Definitely
simulate,
not.
no pun intended, what it truly means to be in the moment as a football player or any other part of football, and really feel like it's a better representation.
Definitely, because I feel like Madden has spoiled a lot of people and how they feel like or how a football simulator should be played. You're controlling, everybody, or your control. Right? I actually really did never play Madden, so I'm really talking out of my ass here. But it was never really my type of game. I played like farming simulators instead.
Well, and it's the same thing with
But
like SimCity and like Planet Coaster and
mhm.
so many simulation games, right? But in a lot of those simulation games, even in Madden or in the NBA game, which the NBA now has its own esports league that they're growing.
Yeah.
You really can kind of play God with it, maybe a little too much. And
Hmm.
ultimately, because games are not reality, games have flaws. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, humans love to win. And so it's incredible how quickly people will throw out simulation in order to win. And and take an exploit in a game and use it to their advantage and are heroed as being smart or heroed as being good. Well, they're not good at the sport or building a theme park or building a city. They're just good at beating the game, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, when I started this, I just wanted to take that away from people. I just, I guess you could say that I'm a people person that doesn't believe in people. I just, I just don't have a belief that they, at the end of the day, are going to do the thing that life would do on its own. They're going to try to take control. It's just our human nature, right? To take control of a situation, survive, adapt, all those things. And in this case, in this league, you just there's an inability to do that that can be thrilling to a lot of people.
How long have you guys been running the simulation football league?
So the Simulation Football League started in 2013, summer of 2013, but we had entities and attempts long before that. I started the concept, and I wasn't the only one, apparently, because people that I've talked to since we've had the league have said, look, as a kid, I always used to create teams and watch them play and put myself sort of in this alternate reality of what if I was running, the NFL or the NBA, and there were all these different teams in these different cities, and how cool and how different and how creative can I be? It's really a creative mind thing. So, I was upstairs in, the I guess the playroom slash storage room of childhood toys, right? Would just be up there simming these games and essentially, running these leagues and thinking, wow, it'd be so cool if there were other people that were involved with this. I'd love to get other people involved with this. So I started the concept of having a simulation league and put that on a message board back in January of 2010. Um, I was at the time a fool and 18, and when 60 something people were like, I want a team, I said, great, I'll give you one. And the league had 56 teams, and we were all ready to go for the first season. And then about 8 games in, I thought to myself, this is the dumbest idea I've ever had. How am I supposed to showcase all of these games and all of these teams? And it's ludicrous. And I had to shut it down, but just because one idea doesn't work doesn't mean you stop. You refine the idea. So we tried again and failed, and tried again and failed, and tried again and failed before we really learned, before we failed enough times to say, okay, this is all of the things that doesn't work. Let's take all of the things that do work and let's try again. And we've been going ever since. This is our 10th season.
Y'all have mastered the format.
I wouldn't say mastered. I think we're always, when you're an online entertainment product, you can't not change. You can't become this thing that is the same old thing as it was last year, because it becomes stale. People have short attention spans. They have an unlimited amount of media that they can consume online. So if somebody's going to consume you, if they're going to choose to 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 be a fan of you, you have to give them something that not only is different and unique, but you constantly have to adjust the storylines and what separates that season from another season, right? You got to change up the graphics, you got to change up the conferences, who teams play. You've got to encourage free agency so that players that were on one team this year play on another team the next year because they got a coaching job and now they're playing their old team. And it's these stories that we've never seen before, but now get to see. And that just helps keep everything fresh, and that's really needed in the online space. And so while we like to think that we're not as flawed as we used to be, um, we're certainly going to continue to keep kind of pushing that next envelope of, okay, what's next?
How many teams are playing in the current season?
So we have 18 teams competing. So 4 teams are left, and then we'll have the championship game. But we are expanding by 3 teams. So we had applications for those expansion teams, and a lot of interested parties, a lot of people, if they feel like they're not going to be able to win or fully make it, the best commitment or best pitch, along the way, they tend to back out and say, hey, maybe next season. So we end up with 9 really, really strong candidates. And I've always been a believer of our ownership group getting to vote in their peers. So it's their responsibility to dissect these, these applications and these people, and are they best suited for the position? Do they need more time and experience in coaching? Do they need more time in the league in general because they're still in the honeymoon phase of this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, right? Like
Definitely.
Sometimes we need to see how they feel a year later before we can really feel comfortable, or owners can really feel comfortable about saying, hey, this guy's going to be here for 3, 4, 5, 6 years like we have. And so that's kind of the team dynamic. And I learned from the very first season, right, going from 0 to 56, bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
So going from 16 to 32 is a bad idea. We grow with the demand of our product, and eventually we'll reach where we want to be.
Manageable growth is key to succeeding. I'm the kind of person, when I get really overwhelmed, I almost like shut down a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. I've been there.
And it's so hard to climb out of the hole and like force yourself to get back into it. But I was curious. So I watched one day recently, you guys were on the front page of Twitch. And so I kind of caught a couple of games that day. And it was really fun to watch the chat because you obviously have like a really amazing like a base of fans and players and coaches and teams that are really, really involved in helping people understand what you guys are doing. But then also people coming in like, oh my God, what is this? I thought this was real football. Like in the preview, it looks like real football. What's going on? Is this like a shoutcasting thing? Or, it was just amazing to see like so many people coming in, and then all of your veterans just like really jumping on it and really trying to help them understand. I was just curious, like, do you guys have a pretty large returning fan base?
Yeah. So, it's funny, Katie. One of our biggest struggles for a long time was retaining that player, right? That individual, right? As a business and as an entrepreneur, I didn't necessarily yet understand how important it was to give someone an investment, not only in their team and in the league, but in themselves as well. Because that's what really hits people. That's what hits home with a lot of people is what are they doing for me personally? And that's not a knock on selfishness. People really want to feel like they are that they have a place, right? That they matter. And so for the longest time, our players were essentially our fans. We didn't even have people as players until season 3 of the SFL, which means the 4 previous failed attempts and the first couple of seasons, we just didn't even entertain the idea. And part of that was because we were just so small and had such a small following that thinking about having hundreds of people as players just seemed like something not to spend our time on because it was just spending it on a pipe dream. But once we, in season 10, established the player progression system, which allows players to get to improve on their players' skills every week, and built a a player builder on our website for all the positions using using our own sort of player ratings scale in terms of how much they cost against the cap for certain amount of skills, because we have salary caps in the league, right? So that everybody has a level playing field, at least through rosters.
Mm-hmm.
We really built this concept of, hey, not only do I care about the league, not only do I care about the team that I'm on, not only do I care about myself, but I care about my teammates and what they're doing. Are my teammates being responsible and helping our team get better? If they're not helping, I want to help them get better. And it helped bond our community together, not just the league as a whole, but in our individual private locker rooms for our players,
Mm-hmm.
because these locker rooms essentially, become a family for 3 or 4 months, where they're, talking about, hey, what are you going to do with your player this week, and what's the game plan looking like, coach? And oh, I can't wait to beat this team that this other guy was talking smack in the other channel, and I just, we got to take these guys down, and where are we in the playoffs, and just all of that, right? All of that conversation, and on top of that, hey, how's your day going? What do you guys do? Oh, I'm playing this right now. Oh, cool. I'm at home. You mind if I jump in with you? Type of stuff, right? So it's just that team bonding. So to circle back to your question, Katie, our player retention rate was very poor, but now we're looking at about a 90% return on all of the people that participated in the league this year, which was about 240 people. We expect about 85 to 90% of those people will return, either with their teams or in new opportunities with expansion teams or coaching positions that open up, or just exploring and wanting to see if the grass is greener in some other locker room, because we kind of allow every team to kind of operate differently in the way that they um, go after free agents, keep locker room
Mm-hmm.
conversation going. There are very different vibes in all those different organizations, which again is meant to simulate what it's like to play for the Cleveland Browns or the Dallas Cowboys. It's a
Yeah.
different it's a different ball game. So with rookies, with newcomers coming in, and all of these veterans, that's where you see that growth. That's where you see our ability to say, okay, we need to open up some more slots.
And so you say it's a different ball game, which is very clear in all aspects, from esports and obviously traditional NFL. I'm sure there's minor league football I'm not aware of because I don't pay attention. Um,
All over.
I've noticed that you guys have very unique individual identities for each of the teams, and that's kind of a responsibility of the owners, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, they get to choose from. It's got to be over 80 or 90 different identities that came with the game, right? And so they have a lot of freedom in terms of being able to design their uniforms and build a brand, change the colors, and a lot of guys really go out of their way to create um, this brand that is very unique. And for example, the let me. I wonder. I'm trying to. I don't see if I mention one team, everyone else is going to say, "What? Why did they get mentioned? That's crazy. We are the best brand, right?" So I don't. So I'm careful about
I
doing that. But
understand. I don't want to get you in trouble,
sure,
Cameron.
either way, right? There. Every team tries to establish their identity, and they do that through promotional videos, through hashtags, through different the Dallas Lobos, for example, make trading cards for their
Oh.
players and put them on magazine covers and just sort of try to celebrate the football player like a football player would actually be celebrated, for example.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of one instance where a team says, okay, look, this is kind of our brand. We're proud of our identity and we're proud of who you are as a player. So we're going to showcase that. There's an expansion team or an expansion candidate, the Portland Predators, and in his application, Portland is Rip City. That's the nickname for the, or that's the. I'm not sure on Portland culture, but I know that the Portland Trailblazers have Rip City on their jerseys from time to time. Well, this Rip City is a dinosaur claw that has gone through the eyes of Rip City,
Oh.
and their hashtag is Fear the Roar, right? So like they have the ability, or possibly have the ability in the case of Portland, to attract people by getting them invested in being the predator of the jungle, right? Being the
Hmm.
wild wolf, or the the pirate of the seas, or just wreaking havoc, right? Just like a hurricane, or yada yada yada, right? And,
Yeah.
and and it really builds that brand awareness to where now we're getting helmets made. We're getting uniforms made. We've got merchandise that is customizable to put your name and number and position on the sleeve. And there's so many different things that we can do, and there's so many things that people really cherish and desire, because it really does feel like they play for an organization, or they work for an organization that is an entity. And I think that's what a lot of people in esports, I think that's a big attraction to a lot of people, even if it's not sports related, right? If you're on a team, if you're a part of an organization, and you really feel like you're building a brand or you're building something, it's a lot of fun. It makes you feel really good.
And I think that we're seeing the Overwatch League and how they've really gone after, the teams being in a particular geographic location, and, that's what they're building the brand around. And then I feel like we're seeing that kind of take place more. NBA, you mentioned the NBA 2K League that is kind of in the works, I suppose.
I believe they just had the draft a couple of days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and ESPN did an article and said something to the effect of that this is the first sports league to adapt to esports. And I just shook my head and thought, no, you're not, because we've been doing it for a long time.
Right. Well, and like you said earlier, as far as you're aware, you're correct that you're the first controllerless,
Right.
right? But
You
you
never
may be
know.
wrong. But just like that, right now they are incorrect in their assessment, mostly just because the actual NBA is behind this particular league, gives it.
Sure, they're the first major sports entity that of the five major sports brands in America, or
Mhm.
whatever. But I don't fault a journalist who has no idea who we are. A lot of people don't know who we are. It's a very large planet.
And what I was going to say, or kind of going back to my earlier point before I asked you about being unique, was that what really stands out to me is that you guys aren't trying to be a simulation of the NFL. Y'all are trying to be your own unique entity and league. And I feel like that's really what stands out to
Yeah,
me.
we made a conscious decision a while back, because as I'm sure you can imagine, Katie, a lot of people come to us and say, man, if you did this on Madden, you would blow it out of the water. Like, you would have been famous a long time ago. You would have been all over this, because Madden sells millions and millions of copies every year, and we use a game that's 11 years old, right? So why don't you do that? Well, if our players are on the Denver Broncos, they don't believe that that's possible. It's too unbelievable, right? If I'm a guy
Mm-hmm.
that works at a cubicle in Missouri, and I drive home and I put a dinner in the microwave and I go out for a run and I watch some TV and maybe I have a dog and I played football in middle school. I've always loved the game, but was just never really that amazingly athletic. How am I supposed to believe that all of a sudden a running back on the Denver Broncos? Like that's just not something that's obtainable. But if I can be the running back of the Carolina Skyhawks, why not? That's totally obtainable because the Skyhawks aren't a real entity that professional athletes are actually on. So it becomes a reality that is obtainable and therefore believable. And I made a conscious decision a while back to say, look, it would be easier. We could get more attention quicker for bringing this concept to a game like Madden or a game like NBA 2K. But I don't want instant and quick fame that fades away because we're not unique because all we're doing is using NFL teams. I want to build
Yeah.
something that is so untouchably unique that by the time people notice, we're already there.
You give your players an opportunity to build an identity within those franchises instead of assuming the identity of somebody
Right.
else who's already living that life. So, how does the involvement work with the players? Because that's kind of the ground level that people can get
Sure.
involved in the
And
league, right? And so, how does that work?
so a player, if a player's interested, right, in being a part of the league, they would go to our website, simulationfl.net. They would join our Discord community, okay? And when they join our Discord community, it's actually quite humorous, right? This again goes towards the um, not trying to obtain instant gratification. We have an introductions channel, and in the introductions channel, it tells you that once you introduce yourself, you will be granted permissions to speak in all the other channels. Well, you would be amazed how many people think that they don't know what's happening. They don't have permissions. They don't what how do I do this? How does this work? It's not working. Well, you didn't read. You didn't read the instructions. If you can't read the instructions, then you're not going to be a superstar here because you're not even paying attention when you first get in, right? So when you first get in, so that's kind of our screening process right off the bat, right? If you can read, you're in, okay? So once they introduce themselves and get kind of into the public community, they're able to interact with the community. And as you pointed out earlier, the base of the SFL is so incredibly helpful. It used to be me. Every time somebody new joined, it was me. Hey, welcome to the SFL, yada yada yada. I'm here to answer any questions you have. And I was there 24/7 all the time and I was on top of it. Today, my gosh. I, I it's impossible. I try to talk to every single, rookie. I try to send them an introductory, letter, so to speak, through a private message, and I try to be approachable and I give everybody my cell phone number. I don't care if you're a stranger. This is your league and I work for you, so call me, right? And so players are able to then interact not only with other players in the league and kind of get shown the ropes, but with owners and coaches in the league because they're all designated through roles. So everyone can see who's an owner, who's a coach, who's a broadcaster, who's the league staff member, and they can kind of address them as needed. So
Mhm.
when a player is wanting to get involved in the league, depending upon the time of season, right now they would join the draft because we'll have a rookie draft in the off season. If they join during the season, then they're looking for that spot to open up, right? A player falls inactive for whatever reason, they're there to gobble it right up, right? To start their journey. Um, so it's really a matter of if you really want to be a great player, if you really want to be a star player, a superstar player, you want to start your career and you want to start your destiny, so to speak, then then you've got to there's a level of you got to figure it out for yourself, and that's kind of intentional because I had to figure it out for myself, right? The teams had to figure it out for themselves, and if you really want something, you'll figure it out, right? And that's another separator for us between someone who's just a fan, and we love having fans and we need more fans of people that just love the product, and being a player and
And
really
honestly, it's
being in the nitty gritty.
if you enjoy watching football, you're gonna enjoy watching this because the game is all about the strategy
It really
and the
is.
plays.
And
So it's literally like watching actual football, 100%.
the hardest thing is to it our customer acquisition cost is probably through the roof, but the hardest thing to showcase to people, which we're constantly working on, through new partnerships and technology, is to let people know that even though the computer just called this play and the computer called this play for the two different teams, doesn't mean that there's no strategy there, because these coaches put in a custom game plan with over 6,500 plays to choose from. And they whittled that down, 85 on offense and 40 on defense. And those are the available plays for the AI. And the AI, based on football logic, not based on game exploits or what's broken or what's not broken, but just off football logic alone, is attempting to say, okay, I want to score a touchdown here. What play in this situation do I want to run to make that happen? And then it switches over and says, okay, how can I stop this? Can I stop this? If I can't stop this, they're going to score. If I can, and I see that in this defensive strategy that there is a play in here that can stop this, okay, that's what I'm going to call. And that's where you get the strategy element of it. But it's so hard to showcase that on the screen, in the moment, live in real time. We do our very best and we'll continue to do better. But that's sort of the behind the scenes gears, the inner workings of why these people in the chat room are so desperate when it's fourth down.
Right.
They're just begging for something to go their way, because there's a level of control, but there's a level of just mystery to the whole thing.
I was watching the San Antonio games last week.
Yeah, in Indy.
Yeah, exactly. And San Antonio, I thought that they were going to make the comeback at the very end of the fourth quarter. They scored on a couple runs, like right in a row, and I was like, oh, they might actually do it. And it was like they got to fourth down, like I think maybe two or three times in the last quarter, like almost scoring, and they were stopped by Indy's defense. And I was literally screaming at my TV every like I had people with me. I wasn't the only person watching. We were all yelling at the TV, like we would when we were watching, the Super Bowl or whatever. Like
That's
I
amazing.
wasn't expecting it. I really didn't know what I was going to be getting into watching it, because I also was confused about the format, just kind of. But I ended up. And by the end of it, obviously, it didn't even by the end of it. Like within 10 minutes, I understood the format, and it was just like watching a game, even though it's April.
You know, they could have come. They were down by 10. They
And they
went for
missed.
two, and the receiver ran his route out of the back of the end zone, was out of bounds. That receiver is a real person. That quarterback is a real person. That defender in the back of the end zone is a real person. So you've got in the chat room in real time the receiver saying, dang, like I screwed it up. Like I'm so sorry. Like everybody knows that it's not his fault, right? He didn't, but he feels the guilt for the mistake that his player made, because he feels like he let his team down. He feels like maybe if he would have adjusted his route running this week instead of his speed, maybe he would have caught that pass, right? And so you get into the moment, and the quarterback in the chat says, "Don't worry about it, man. Pick
Mm-hmm.
some up." picks him up as a leader. The Indianapolis defender says, boy, I'm sure glad that you ran that rat out of bounds because you ran right past my zone. And man, whoo, I dodged a
Yeah.
bullet there because my teammates would have been upset if I would have given that up and we would have let you guys back in the game. And you've got all those dynamics. And that's happening in the chat as everybody is watching this game and as the broadcasters are calling the game and calling out these players' names and giving them the recognition of what they did or didn't do. And just to add that extra oomph of there's the real production in all
Definitely.
of
There's a
this.
lot of moving parts, and it's really apparent when you're really in the thick of the excitement. And you can really appreciate it because the broadcasters, the shoutcasters, everybody did a really good job. Like I watched both of those games, and I know it was different broadcasters each game, right?
Yeah, did you know I was the one on the
On
second
the
game?
second game, I wasn't sure, to be completely honest. I knew there was four different guys that had shoutcasted, right?
Yeah, I was play by play on the second game, and I used to do four
Wow.
games a week, 4 2-hour games a week, and it
I
almost
believe
killed
it.
me. I mean, it's just it's so hard to pour that much into every single game and it not become monotonous. And even still in the last game I did, I lost my voice on the last play. I couldn't take it anymore. It was so exciting, and I have a particular excitement just because it's the thing that I grew and obviously had help along the way from other people, but the thing that I grew, the idea that was mine and mine alone from January
Mm-hmm.
2010, you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't be doing this without the help
Definitely.
of other people. But just to know that my idea has developed into this brings such a joy to the broadcasts, and we're celebrating an anniversary on in the semifinals. It's the 700th SFL
Wow.
game in the semifinals. So it's the first, I don't know, 200 were probably all me commentating, and now we've got 9 different crews, and it's not as bad
And
as
so
it used to
the
be.
nine crews, are they
Uh,
spread out, or is everybody kind of in the same place?
yeah, so some crews are actually together in the same place. There's a father and son combo that call the games, but there's also people that aren't even in the same state that call a game together. Somebody can be in California and another person can be in New York City, and through the power of servers and being able to chat online without incurring old, phone out of state fees or whatever
Mm-hmm.
they used to charge for talking out of state, right? Because of the power of technology, they are able to successfully call a football game from two different places. The play-by-play guys in Houston, the color guys in Michigan, and the game is actually being played in St. Louis, and they're playing San Francisco. Like it doesn't matter. And so we'll all get together as a group each week. We'll have a production meeting. We'll assign games. We'll make sure that everyone is available in the slots that we have. Games each week. We have live statisticians that take down live
Wow.
stats for the broadcasters during the games so that broadcasters can get all of the stats in real time. And so the stat people are a part of that play-by-play and color crew. And obviously the production of the games themselves is a whole nother different animal. So really, when you're watching something come together, it's a handful of people or more sometimes that lended a hand in some way of making that what it
Wow.
is.
And those people don't normally get recognition, so I just want to make sure everybody understands how much work goes into something as awesome as what you guys are doing. And my question was, so the game is What game is it that you guys are playing on?
So it's All Pro Football 2K8. It came out in 2007, and it actually came out with the premise of NFL, of having NFL legends, being able to kind of play with all-star teams, right? You could pick Dan Marino and Earl Campbell and Jerry Rice and put them all on the same team. That was cool, right? That was sort of the marketing plug. But honestly, we believe, just here in the SFL, that 2K just missed the boat. This game came out in 2007, just before eSports really kind of started to take off and blow up in America. And for the game, it was about not having the NFL license, but getting the next best thing, which was NFL Legends. But what they missed was the individual, the total customization, the building of individual players and their stories, right? Because that was what was going to be the next big thing. And so in our league, we hardly use anything that the game came with. We have our own player builder on our own site. We have our own our president edits all of our rosters and all of our player ratings off site, off the game, through an editor that was created by the community. Um, King Havo specifically is his username, so I don't want to not give him a shout out for the creation of that. But so much of what we do, we don't run a season or a franchise on the game. Every single one of our games are just exhibitions. The game doesn't know that it's our championship, but we're using that artificial intelligence to fuel the results of what we have, and every single game we play is technically an exhibition to the game. And it's so funny how the game seems to know when a game is big or important, because if it's down to the wire and the winner goes to the playoffs and the loser goes home, it's almost always an incredible game, right? Like one of the best of the whole season. And the game's intelligence and ability to execute these unbelievable once in a lifetime moments is, I mean, it's almost divine. It's crazy. For example, the quarterfinal game that just happened between Indianapolis, who advanced because they beat San Antonio on the front page, and Tallahassee, the number one seed of the league this year. They went undefeated in the regular season. They were the third team to ever do so. That
Wow.
game went into overtime, which is not totally uncommon, but doesn't happen often. And Indiana, after Tallahassee got the ball and had to punt, and Indy got the ball and had to punt, and Tallahassee got the ball and had to punt. Right? They were just kind of going back and forth, and the first score wins. Indianapolis went to punt, and their punt actually got blocked. The game the game blocked the punt. Like, the Tallahassee guy came in um, you know, they missed him, and he just came right off the edge and he blocked it, but he partially blocked it. So the ball went sideways and was recovered by Indianapolis short of the first down at the 18-yard line, right? Set Tallahassee up in the perfect position to win the game, and the very next play they threw a pass to the back of the end zone and scored a touchdown and won the game. It was the first time in 699 SFL games that we had ever had a blocked punt in overtime. Had never happened. And it's only probably the 10th or 11th time we've ever had a block punt. And to see that happen earlier in the season, a San Antonio tight end actually kicked the ball to himself for a touchdown.
Is there a VOD of this video?
There
Because
there is a
okay, I just feel like this VOD is important to share.
and on the instant replay, they couldn't tell, the broadcasters couldn't tell in real time what had happened. Then they showed it on the replay, and it showed that the ball hit the player on his back heel, and it kicked up to him, and when he turned around, there it was, and he caught it. Never in 699 games has any player ever caught a pass off their foot, let alone for a touchdown. It had never occurred before. There had been an interception off a foot one time, and I could tell you who it was, Tank Savage, and we got that on video too, right? But it's the forgive me, the SFL Encyclopedia
No,
begins to
I
roll
love
out
it. No, that's
because
what's important. Though. The nuance is what's so important because it's a genuine, actual community with things like this that that draw you in. Like I feel so invested after only watching 2 games.
we track everybody's stats. So everybody has their career numbers that are available to them, and we have it all in leaderboards. And I'm going there right now just because I'm interested to see where they are as updated. But people get to chase down milestones, and people get to chase down people that are either currently in the league or aren't in the league anymore. For example, Joseph Redfeather, who isn't even a real person, because remember at the beginning we didn't have real people. He leads the league all time in passing yards with 26,092 because we've been tracking those stats from the beginning. The number one actual person was Mike Dazzo. He's third on that list, 20,305. And currently, the number 4 person and the number 5 person on those all-time passing leaderboards are people that are still in the league right now that are chasing down records. Sioux Falls' quarterback is 160 yards away from becoming the third-time all-time leading passer, and they play in the semifinals. They won their first franchise game ever this past week, and he can actually get that milestone this week. It's a
Wow.
big deal. It's a big deal for him, right? He just crossed over the 20,000 yard milestone. So that's when we put a graphic on the screen and celebrate his achievements and congratulate him when he passes those milestones or gets his 200th touchdown or whatever the case may be. And so we can track all of those throughout our history. And we've had so many. It appears that we've had 48 quarterbacks in SFL's history, and we've got data on all of them.
Wow. Would you say that there's any rivalries that have grown out at least out of this season
Out of this season,
or just
um,
historically in the league? I guess I'm not sure when the last
sure.
time you guys added teams were or how often you add. So
Yeah, we added teams this past year: San Francisco, London, and Indianapolis, and there's one more, Tulsa. All 4 of those teams were new this year, so we went from 14 to 18 throughout the season, and really it's about those personalities at the top and the personalities that are on the team. A big rivalry is Carolina Tallahassee, not for any reason other than Tallahassee has had their number. Carolina has only made the playoffs ever one time. They've, had a lot of growing pains and up and down seasons. And Tallahassee's having their best season ever, but they've never won a championship either, right? But Tallahassee's just kind of always had Carolina's number, and that rivalry was fueled when Carolina was 2-7. They won 3 games in a row to end the season in an improbable run. They get into the playoffs, and the team they have to face in the first round is Tallahassee, and Tallahassee cleans their clock and ruins their whole Cinderella season. And it just makes it even more of a I want to take you down, and I want to. So that's an example of a rivalry that may be a little lopsided, but there's a lot of friendly banter and rivalry and competition there between those two sides. And they've played, I think Carolina and Tallahassee have played 10 times in history. So they're familiar with each other, right? Mexico City, Alaska played for the 5th time.
oh wow.
And the first time in the playoffs just this past weekend. And all of their games have been really close. And Oklahoma City and Queen City don't play a lot, but they are the 2 teams still left from the original 7 when season 1 started. Those and the owner of the Queen City Corsairs was actually is the only person
Oh,
that is
wow.
still left from when I launched the idea in January of 2010. He was a part of that group, and he has been in this league for 8 years, and he is a Hall of Fame finalist. This
Wow.
summer at our first convention, we'll be inducting our inaugural Hall of Fame class, and celebrating um, their journey right through all of this. And on top of that, we keep track of franchise records as well. Queen City is the all-time winningest team. They're 64-50 all-time, and have played in more games than any other team. That's 114 games out of 700 or whatever. So they've been around for a long time. So it's just to see it build, and the importance of keeping that detail, because in season one it seems silly, but we knew that 10 seasons down the road we'd really appreciate having all that information.
Definitely. So y'all are having a convention? Where? Give me all of the details.
So the convention is in Irving, Las Colinas. It is July 13th through the 15th, and it is through one of our league partners, Show Business Studios, a film production company. We expect slash or hopeful that the convention is turned into a documentary, an updated documentary, since we had a documentary actually produced a few years ago, by
Oh, wow.
a filmmaker who ended up becoming the owner of the Tallahassee Pride, because he got so invested into the product, he couldn't resist and applied to be an owner of the team, and got accepted as an owner, and has been here ever since, and now is number two all time in wins with 48.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so so we hope to kind of get an updated documentary. It's quite funny. The old documentary is only a couple years old, and almost nothing applies except the general principle, right? But everything else has changed so much. And the real interest behind the film production company and the filmmaking of this event is, you've got people from seven different continent or not continents, seven different countries, three different continents, that by and large have been friends for years and have never met. You have people from all sorts of backgrounds, cultures, fields of work or fields of study. You've got players coming, you've got coaches coming, you've got owners coming, to be able to say, "What's up, coach?" to some random person. For a player from Louisiana can say, "What's up, coach?" Always, man, so great to meet you. To a coach in Ohio, and the two of them be on Vancouver, right? The team Vancouver in the SFL. It it's it's something that just doesn't happen in the world. To bring all of those people together from Mexico, from the UK, from Canada, from the US, from I unfortunately I don't think any of our Argentinian brothers are going to be able to make it, but just to bring all those people together and have a Hall of Fame ceremony and open season 11 with competition that weekend, where all of the teams are in action, and all of those broadcasters that they've heard called games for years, now they're actually getting to watch those broadcasters call those games live. They're getting to enjoy the games with their friends, their longtime friends, current with their teammates, with their coaches, with their team owners, with people in the league that they've admired or been fond of. Or, dude, I love the way you run. You're just a beast out there, man. It's unbelievable. Nice to finally meet you. And the guy couldn't be less athletic. But that's what's all part of the attraction, is you can literally be somebody that you never could be, but at the same time you can be you. And so that's what this convention is going to be all about. And I just can't. I'm going to lose it, Katie. I'm going to be a mushball. Seeing it all, seeing all these people that have spent so much time giving the SFL great football and being there for me and for our league staff and the people that just work countless hours to help me build this and help me make it big. I I just am eternally grateful, and I know that they're eternally grateful to all of their other peers and to league staff, and everything's reciprocal. We're just so excited about it. Partner with Hilton Garden Inn to get us an awesome rate, and we made some really good deals with some corporations this year to really take our product to the next level, and I think that this summer and the future it's just so exciting.
So when is the championship game for season 9?
So the championship game for season 10,
Or sorry.
uh, it's okay. I wanted to bust you there just for a little bit, but the championship game for season 10 is right now not 100%, but 92% going to be Tuesday, April 24th on the Twitch front page.
Okay.
Um, After we got over 100,000 views on our last Twitch front page, we were slotted for two more front page games this season: the championship game and our first Pro Bowl, first All
Okay.
Star game with all of our users. And we have a great relationship with a program director over at Twitch who really believes in the product and has essentially said, look, you guys keep pulling in the numbers you pull in, keep giving the ratings that you guys give. I believe in your product. I think this is something that's next level. And when you've got an event, we're going to put it on the front page. We're gonna make a show out of it because you guys do such a good job of making a show out of your product. And so we're really blessed to have that. So the only reason why it's not 100% is I'm working with. We've got a new partner in the SFL that's flying from out of state to headquarters to check out the championship game and all of its bells and whistles. And we've got some commentators, a couple of analysts who are also team owners. The owners of Houston and Dallas are coming to headquarters to broadcast the game in person with me in the studio. And
Wow.
so there's a lot of scheduling that goes into it, and we want to make sure that we've got a slot on the Twitch front page that makes sense. So we're almost positive it's April 24th, and we should know in the next, probably by the time this podcast comes out, honestly.
And I will have show notes with videos and links to. I would love to put links to all the teams, just so that people know. I don't think people realize, like, the places that a lot of the teams are at, may not be places that you're used to having a team representing, um, like Mexico City, like
Sioux
Alaska.
Falls.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I'm really excited to all of this information with people on the website, and I'll be sure to have all of the updated correct information there for people to find as well.
Awesome.
Um, was there anything else that you wanted to mention while you are here with me in this virtual space?
Sure. Sure. It's crazy. I going back to kind of how we started the conversation, the amount of time that it takes to truly build something from nothing is so astronomical. It's almost like when you're driving by and you see a slab of dirt and then you see a building and you know that it took time, but you really can't appreciate exactly just how many steps it took to make that building, right? And so, like, all Easter weekend, 3-day weekend, I I did the SFL the whole weekend. I didn't get to spend time with my family. I said, look, it's quarterfinal weekend, and there's a lot of big projects and big things on the horizon, and they gotta get taken care of. If I go and live a quote unquote normal life right now, right this second, it's not gonna it's not gonna be what the SFL is,
Yeah.
and that is unacceptable. And I won't bend. I have to do this. And making that decision over and over and over and over and over again for 8 years, and to just keep telling yourself, if I keep making this decision, eventually I won't have to. That is the best gift, right? Just
Hmm.
as a person, we we always wonder why we're here, right? What's our life? What does it really mean? What's our purpose? And building an idea into a company, which is what it's turned into. Building an idea into a company, that's all the purpose anyone ever needs. It's not all about work. It's not, work doesn't make a life, but turning work into a passion, or turning a passion into work and it not feeling like work, and being able to have the best of all worlds
It's work.
in doing so, that
I was gonna say it's work
I
you
can
don't
I
mind
can live with
doing.
that, and I can go ahead. Yeah, because I know that at the end of the day, if I shut it down, it's going to be devastating. Not just to the player, but to the people that put in all that time. What was it
Hmm.
for, right? What was it all worth it? And the people that understand but will miss it, that will just miss it dearly. They These are people that have a better relationship with their son or their sons that they didn't have before, right? A dad that wants to play their kid in a video game but doesn't know all the buttons, doesn't know how to beat the game, isn't as good as their kids. Their kids try to teach them. It's too complicated. It's too confusing. Video games are not really something that an adult, typically spends or wastes their time in. You go online and you try to interact with a community, and it's a bunch of, just kids that have all the time in the world. And that's there's you're trying to forge a connection with your kids, and it's hard. And there's other ways to do it, but this is formed bonds between family members and sons and fathers, and people that didn't have a hobby, didn't have
Hmm.
something outside of work or family or loved ones that they were really searching for, something to be passionate about. And that's what all this is. So if I decide one day, hey, I'm going to be lazy, I'm going to watch a marathon of TV, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to lay here, all those people don't get that product. They don't get to appreciate that product. How can I possibly let that happen? It's such an insult. I take it very personally. Like, I would hate to become that person. And so I'm not. And I'm going to keep working as hard as I can, with as much passion and energy as I possibly can, so that they always have this to look forward to.
Yeah.
And that just, it's just, I don't know. I just kind of sit and think about it sometimes. It really is just very rewarding. And I would say to anybody out there that has an idea that feels like you could change somebody's life or you could change your life, take take the same philosophy, take the same approach, because that's honestly what it takes. Because if you're not willing to go that, you know push yourself in that way, it's not going to come together. Just won't, and you won't ever put yourself in an opportunity to where someone can come along and
Mm-hmm.
be a blessing to you.
You're speaking to me real hard. And I really do appreciate you coming onto the show. I know you've been incredibly busy with everything going on with the postseason. You had, everything leading up to the championships, the convention.
I appreciate you and for recognizing this as part of the landscape, because it is a vast landscape and it's hard to stand out doing anything anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what you do these
Mm-hmm.
days. It's, yeah, and sometimes you can be the most talented person in the world and no one may ever know your name. And it's just that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody deserves that. If you've got something that find a way to spread it, find a way to get it in front of somebody and make it happen. And I didn't know how to do that until I knew who I was as an individual. I didn't know how to sell myself
Mm-hmm.
when somebody asked me what I was all about. And because I didn't know that, I didn't know how to take my passion and turn it into something tangible, turn it into something life-changing. And yeah, you had to keep trying and you had to hone in and figure out, why does anybody care? Why do they care? And the answer to that question is how to get more people to care. And until you know the answer to that question, you're just going to sit there being a super talented person that nobody knows about. But anybody can.
Where can everybody find you and the Simulation Football League online?
So our website is simulationfl.net. Our YouTube is youtube.com/simulationfl. You're seeing a pattern here. And our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/simulationfl. And we have seasons. We're essentially 4 months on, 2 months off to the general public. So we have a season from January to April and a season typically from June to September. This year it'll be July through October because the convention, we wanted to launch the new season at that convention. So we're going to have a little bit of a lengthier off season, but we need it with the Pro Bowl and the rookie draft and the expansion teams and all that. We've got a lot going on. So that's kind of when you can typically find us. In the off season, we're sort of huddled in our Discord community and we're announcing free agent signings, and we're kind of going through the administrative process of getting all the playbooks submitted, all the rosters submitted, getting all the players individually made, from nothing in our editor. Everything's done by hand. Everything's done by scratch. None of it is electronic and,
Mm-hmm.
digitally speaking in terms of automation, right? It's all people doing grunt work, and working really, really hard on an old school product. But that's kind of our calendar. That's where people can find us. Twitter's the same thing, twitter.com/simulationfl. And we try to keep our fans as pumped from the outside as best we can. But if you're any type of fan of the SFL, you really should join our Discord community, because it's there's no cursing up a storm. There's no constant fighting in public channels. There's none of that. It's just a great place to talk about football and life and your team and the league and all sorts of stuff.
I already have been talking to people about this since I watched the games like 2 weeks ago, because I was blown away, and I will continue to be blown away. And I promise I have been telling everybody about it.
We have one female in the league, Ashley Finch, the punter for Indianapolis. We want to find that female demographic and that female interest, and one of our partners, who's very much invested into the future of the league. She's a big proponent of that. She's a woman advocate for the SFL, not just because she finds it interesting, but it's just another way for a woman to participate in the sport that can't necessarily ever imagine or fathom being able to do so in the NFL. It's
Definitely.
just it's not something that a woman gets to dream about and be realistic about. It's just that opportunity isn't there. And there's women's tackle football leagues, and I mean, there's opportunities, but nothing, nothing as grandiose, right, as the NFL that everybody has dreams of getting into.
The SFL is inclusive. Like at this point, anybody who has an interest can play, could potentially get drafted, no matter what gender you are or,
Yeah.
what physical, like how able bodied you are. Like that doesn't matter because it's all about you creating this player and being a part of this team, which
Yeah, that's right. And we have a couple of guys that fortunately deal with physical disabilities. There's a story on our website on the front page right now talking about Matt Wilson, a Hall of Fame finalist, and his inoperable tumor in his spine that prevented him from being able to be out of a wheelchair. And it's sad, he never got to play football. He loves football, and he just never got that opportunity. Well, he gets the opportunity, and he's fifth all time in passing yards. He, has 148 touchdowns and 1,601 completions, and he gets to feel
mm-hmm.
just just for a moment that he got to be the athlete that he didn't get to be. And he's the
Wow.
prime example only because he's just been such a successful quarterback, a championship winning quarterback, and he's the man. Everybody loves him. He's an analyst on broadcast. He co-owns Mexico City. He's firmly entrenched in the SFL community, and he is just, I mean, as everyday guy as they come. And it's so tremendous to be able to, not just Matt, and I hope he's probably getting sick and tired of everybody telling his story, but really everybody's just inspired by him. That's all that it is we truly just, I'm grateful. I'm just grateful to be able to be in a position where I can make an impact on somebody's life like that. And it truly is, as you said, Katie, all ages, all shapes and sizes and forms, and really the only thing you really have to do is you kind of really know how to have to speak English. And if you can only speak Spanish, then join Mexico City because they can all speak Spanish over there, and it's, they got you covered, and you can get by. But yeah, otherwise, like, there's not many requirements. It would be pretty tough to get by, but
Oh, okay.
otherwise, it's, we try to appeal to everybody, and I think that this type of thing, really has the potential to do so.
Well, thank you again, Cameron. Like I said, thank you so much for chatting with me. I hope that we have converted every single person who is about to listen to this episode, or I guess at this point has listened to the episode, um, to fans of the league. And I'm really looking forward to the championship game for sure.
It's going to be great. We're going to have a new champion because the last four teams that are left standing have never won it before. So,
Oh, fresh blood.
yeah, yeah. Poor Mexico City. Boy, they're getting a lot of airtime. We need to. People are going to be up my case about that. But yeah, they're the defending champs went down, and so there's gonna be a new champion. So that's going to be
Okay.
exciting. No one's ever repeated as a champion. Mexico City was close, but it's really hard to do it 2 seasons in a row. People get complacent, just like in pro sports. They reach the championship. They think, oh man, we're on top of the world, and then the next year they don't even make the playoffs, and they're like, wow, man, what happened? Well, I guess we didn't want it like we wanted it last year. So
Okay, so that was Cameron and the Simulation Football League, and I really hope that anyone who is listening who even thinks they might have an inkling of being interested in the league, just take a moment and go and check them out on Twitch, check them out on YouTube, whatever. Give it a chance and maybe catch the championship game. I will have show notes on the SFL, links to their Discord, links to their social media, links to all the teams. I'll have links to everything you need to become a new fan of the Simulation Football League on cakebites.com. Don't forget to subscribe and review Cake Bites on whatever app it is you're listening on. And be sure to follow Cake Bites on everything on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And you can find me, your host, Katie Cakes, also on social media. You can usually find me linked through the Cake Bites social media. It's a lot easier that way. So I will see you guys in 2 weeks.